Thank you. I want to take a moment just to personally introduce both Nicole and Heather to you more, the humans behind the story, of course. So Nicole Barker, she making hospitality, making mischief in hospitality comes naturally to most Larkies. Nicole is no stranger to mischief and breaking old rules, to forge new success in everything that she does. And she specializes in rehumanizing data and seeking how a company can better connect with guests using data analytics and loyalty programming. Nicole, what I would say is it has an uncommon blend of analytical rigor and freewheeling creativity that gives her a real advantage, I think, in achieving her goals. She's an analytics aficionado for a reason. It's that she relentlessly seeks results, but thoroughly enjoys the journey and how she gets there. We could nerd out for hours talking about stuff like this. If you're lucky enough to join along, you will too. So Lark Hotels, if you're not familiar, is the premier boutique hospitality management company in North America. Anywhere from 60 to 100 hotels, depending on when you're looking at the count, of truly unique, independent properties from beachside to mountaintop. And managing the messaging to guests across such a very dynamic portfolio and varied portfolio is no easy task. But Lark really nails it. They nail it with flair and effectiveness, and they're just getting started, really. There's so much more that I know they're going to accomplish. So for the next 30 minutes, we're going to get the chance to do just that, to join Nicole and Heather along with this discussion and learn a bit about what's possible now and how personalization with passion, precision, and power can really work for you too. So in addition to Nicole, we have Heather. Heather is our Senior Vice President of Sales and Marketing with us here at Ascent360. Heather drives our company's sales and marketing strategy forward. She leverages her passion for travel and hospitality with her extensive experience leading diverse marketing teams and scales to build meaningful and lasting relationships within the hospitality space, both internally and externally. Her authenticity inspires the brand through thought leadership and putting a spotlight on clients and partners. And leading enterprise teams in B2C, B2B, MarTech, and data spaces really gives Heather a diverse view of what works well. She's a winner of the Denver Business Journal 40 Under 40. And when she's not helping drive our brand and client marketing programs forward, you can find her hiking and kayaking, at yoga class, or on the ski lift or supporting animal rescue efforts. Awesome. And a little bit of trivia. We didn't do like a poll thing or anything, but between the three of us, which is interesting, we kind of have the trifecta here. We cover Whitefish, Montana, Steamboat Springs, Colorado, and Bend, Oregon. So we have all the nice little ski resorts here between the three of us.
Yeah. Thank you. That was really
Thank
nice.
you. That was really nice.
Wow.
Thank you.
How do we follow that?
I know. Drop the mic. That's great. Thanks.
Anybody have a favorite? Steamboat, Bend, Whitefish?
Whitefish.
Yay,
Oh,
that's me.
come on.
Yay. Woo. All right. Here we go. So when we were asked to speak and we were going to get up here and talk about Ascent360, when I learned it was a digital transformation conference, and this is my first time attending, I thought, which client would we want to invite to come on stage with us? And so let's get back to this as a digital transformation. And when I think about forward thinking, cutting edge, and we're talking about AI, but there's so much in the foundation to get right as well, I think of Lark.
Oh,
and so
that's wonderful.
We wanted to invite you. You were top of our list. Don't tell all of our clients, but top of our list. And when I think of cutting edge and forward thinking, I think of you. So thank you for joining us.
I appreciate that. Is that a sense of compassion as well, considering we've almost replaced every item in our tech stack within the past year?
Which is what we're talking about
Yes.
today, a little bit.
Yeah.
So it's kind of cool, and I'll set the stage and following your beautiful intro, so thank you, is you and I, we've only known each other about 6 months.
Mm-hmm.
So Nicole and I, to give you guys a quick background, had a conversation. She was vetting different partners, and she's going to talk about a variety today, not just Ascent360. And she asked Michael, can I call Heather and talk to Heather? And we ended up talking about steamboat and whitefish and skiing and all kinds of golden retrievers, fun
Yeah,
stuff. But then we
absolutely.
talked about technology and what you were vetting, and you asked me about conferences. And I think it's really cool that we're sitting here together today.
Within 6 months, yeah.
Yes. So let's talk a little bit about forward thinking and that digital transformation, because one of the things that started our conversation was data blindness. You had data silos. We've heard about that the last 3 days, but tell me a little bit about what you are looking for when you're vetting partners. It can be us, and it can be, I know you're working with some of our friends, Muse, Triple Seat, Toast isn't here. But tell me about that process, because you inherited a lot of technology.
Yes.
And you had to make some hard decisions. And I'd like to say you guys are choosing some forward thinking.
I'd like to think we made some good choices, right? Yeah, there's so much to unpack there. I mean, are many of you looking at different options and how to reconfigure your ecosystem? We've talked about friction on the guest side and removing friction on how somebody feels when they're going to a beautiful place like a wellness retreat. I am a champion for friction on the data side. And the more points the data has to travel from place to place to get to a single source of truth, the more estranged that data comes into utility, right? Utility wanes. And then marketing data just becomes directional. And that hurts me. I would like to be a profit center, not a cost center. And a lot of that ties back to the data. So I spent 18 months in demo, heaven or hell, I won't admit, but basically vetting and understanding the marketplace, not only where it is, but where it's going. And there's a lot of dream speak of which also can be construed as smoke and mirrors. There's a lot of selling what we could do. And the same kind of themes come up for the last 20 years on what we envision a seamless data flow would look like and the utility of that data. When I joined, Lark's been around since 2012. So we have a lot of historical data. And we migrated from Clock, a European-based PMS, to Muse in January of last year. So we're 1 year into that transformation. But that tends to be a core decision for a company, and then you have to figure out the other dominoes to go with it, right? But a core on the marketing side for us became a CDP CRM. And when I first started talking to Michael, CDP wasn't an acronym that anybody on my team knew about, or at least anybody on the executive team knew about. But that is going to be my core tool to make data work going forward. So when I came to Lark exactly 3 years ago, we had signed a 3-year Salesforce CRM contract. But we only bought one module. We're a small boutique hotel company, and I don't have a battalion of people as specialists in data and coding and CRM and all of this. So I fought for 3 years to try to make that work, and every answer to any problem with Salesforce was put a ticket in and figure it out for yourself. So when vetting new options, I know, I feel like I should have like battle stars on my side for trying to figure that out, right? And I thought the fault was in my stars. So it was incredibly demoralizing to feel like, why? I'm a smart person. Why can't I make this work? Why can't I figure it out? Towards the end of that 3-year relationship, I was building my emails in MailChimp because the coding was stronger, exporting the HTML and uploading it into Salesforce to send out my emails. I had a white label database, meaning that my data lived outside of Salesforce, and that's not really how it's meant to function. So I was dealing in all these different ponds, trying to fill it together. And the fear at night when you go to sleep and you deploy something in a marketing world, when you have way too many options for errors behind the scenes, made me sweat. And it took my sleep away. So it was lovely when I started conversations with Michael, when he said that no matter what, we are a data-first company. We believe in data hygiene. We believe in data. We put our investment and our attention into merging context within the database to give you more of a whole sense of the guest and a 360-degree view. And we work hard to integrate, to pull data in from multiple sources. What I found through all this demo process, when I asked the follow-up questions during every demo, that just because a company integrates with Muse or integrates with another company doesn't mean that the data is flowing in a bidirectional way. And that causes friction in my ability to segment or learn from the data that I have. And just because we have a data workflow now where all the data comes through the process from online web forms through the booking engine, through the PMS, and into Ascent360, doesn't mean that that data is actionable. We can pull it all into one place, but whether we can actually use it or not is where our partnership is beginning to really bloom. What will it take to turn that data into something that really goes beyond personalization and it goes into a sense of meeting the guest in the moment based on their triggered behaviors and not our sense of averages. But there's a lot to unpack there, but the fact that we found a partner and understood that our CDP CRM decision was the core decision, like the PMS decision on the marketing side, really has volleyed us into a totally new realm of activation.
And you made it clear to us that it was important that your partners that were selected, those forward-thinking, and I think Olive is another one that's maybe newer.
Newer, yeah.
It was important that they were all talking to each other.
I've had
too.
meetings where, how many of you have been in meetings where you put in a ticket and it's everybody else's problem? They throw the other vendors under the bus. And the fact that in the last couple of months, I've had 3 vendors on the same phone call troubleshooting and all fully invested in figuring it out and getting us to the other side without blaming each other is a dream come true. And actually one of my favorite people at Ascent360 is and I'm gonna try to hold on to him as much as possible. He's on the integration team. And Greg, I won't say his last name because if you steal him, you'll cry. But Greg is a firefighter. And like any volunteer firefighter in his spare time, he runs into any data problem building with calmness and intent, and he gets us to the other side of it. And it's that kind of set series of individuals who care about not hand-holding, but holding hands from one end of a problem to another to make the data flow work, to make all of it work.
When was it evident to you that you weren't able to decipher your segments? I know you and I've had conversations that your weekday guests are very different than your weekenders. How did that become evident to you, and how are you starting to take actions to speak to those segments differently?
Right. I think it became really real for us when the Canada question came up. We have a high density of properties in New England, and we're spreading across the country, but we had a lot of border places. And when executive teams and stakeholders in those areas asked what the impact of relations between Canada and the US, what that meant to our bottom line, I couldn't answer the question. And here's why. There's multiple reasons. How many do you get data from your OTAs based on city, date, state, and zip, or is that masked? It's masked, right? You don't get that into your database. So suddenly I lose a third of my information about who the money comes from. We do very well at looking at PMS of what we make our money from, inventory, rooms, needs. But my job as a steward of data within my company is to begin to care about who we make our money from, right? And the data was Swiss cheese. I wasn't getting city, state, zip information from my OTAs. And then when you looked at the booking process, city, state, and zip were not required fields as part of the booking process. We also didn't have a standard for check-in and check-out where we were asking or recording those questions. Now, when you work for a large company like a Marriott or otherwise, you have the credit card data and you have the credit card information to be able to fill in those blanks. But in a boutique hotel space, I'm reliant on the booking process, the web forms, and maybe the captive portals and other channels of information to get that, to get those as required fields. I can't answer the basic questions of who we make our money from and where they come from without it. And so having a partner that can help me turn Swiss cheese into Gouda data, fantastic, right? And making that very simple thing penultimate will give me the ability to do more. And I always think that the grass is always greener in the next MSA. Have you ever had a stakeholder or a property owner or a franchisor think, we're gonna grow our business by reaching beyond our local and regional area, and we're gonna get all that business, and we're gonna spend money on digital advertising or direct marketing in the neighboring MSA. But without that kind of city-state zip data in the database, I can't refute that investment. I can't make an argument for reinvesting in the proper places with the proper people.
You brought up OTAs, and you and I have talked a lot about loyalty as well, so we should probably talk about that a little bit. And we're working on ingesting some of the loyalty to look at that for some of the campaigns. But guests understand points, and I think we heard from Marriott and Bonvoy, and it's a little bit different for an independent collection. Do you want to talk about Lark's loyalty program a little bit and how that's different for someone who's got 60 independent hotels?
Yeah, so we have a portfolio of 60 plus properties and growing. And half of those properties are branded properties with 4 sub-brands under the On a Lark loyalty program. The other half are independently managed properties where they have siloed databases, and if you subscribe to that property, you get information about that property. There's no cross-selling there. I was in the casino marketing consulting space for about a dozen years, having started in Las Vegas and taking care of the direct marketing, database marketing for 3 properties that were wholly different from each other, right? The Rio, Harrah's Laughlin, Harrah's Las Vegas. And at that time, I really made a name for myself in consulting by doing 3 webinars: Die Points Die, Die Tiers Die, and Die Coupons Die. Because what that did in a loyalty universe that is driven by United and Marriott and other large organizations, we put the onus of demonstrating loyalty on the customer to be loyal to us for an insanely long period of time before we're willing to acknowledge what they've done in our relationship. It takes me a whole bloody year with United to maybe make the mark where they might pay for my bags. It's way too long a period of time. And in the boutique hotel space, I don't have, right now with our existing Legacy Point program, somebody has to spend 20 nights to get a free night with us. And if they're only visiting maybe 3 times a year, that takes way too long. And as we move towards an experiential marketing model, I need to be able to have my data fuel more milestone moments to recognize people and not lock them into tiers that drives them on a path that they'll never feel recognition from me. But we can't do that without an architecture of data that looks at lifetime spend or lifetime trips or lifetime nights with us and have aggregates that mean something within that brand. So
All under one roof.
All under one roof. And so my metrics in the boutique hotel space tend to be a little bit different than in companies that have a larger base of business that comes from the business traveler in a more frequent market. I need to be able to extend the conversation and get very personal and very inspirational in between the trips to keep the dream alive of who they want to be when they're on vacation or spending time away from home.
To get that second or third instead of the 18th and 19th and 20th and 25th.
Yeah, my KPIs for success is OTA to direct conversion, very hard to do and can't be done in transactional marketing means with discounts. Then the first trip to second trip in the same resort or the same destination. And I can't start that cross-selling across the portfolio or the brand until we have more data in the bank about that guest and what to learn about the affinities where I can introduce something else in a new set of experiences.
We're looking at some of your beautiful emails I see behind us. And do you want to talk a little bit what did your email journey look like in the last, when you inherited 3 years ago, when you started, versus where is it today? And you and I know we're crawl, walk, run when we've got some dreams of running. So maybe next year when we're together speaking, we can talk about the running and what we talked about at breakfast. But tell us a little bit about what your emails look like maybe a year ago and where you're heading now.
We were sending emails from MailChimp. And then when I came aboard, we were sending emails through Salesforce. And coding is important to me, how it renders across multiple platforms in dark mode, in multiple platforms, and all of that became very important. We are very picture-based, and so we want the picture to resonate with somebody, and that we want them to step into that experience and step into that sort of inspired travel. I think what excites me about a partner like Ascent360 is I can begin to look at the real estate within an email or any kind of communication and know that here's the masthead of the conversation, and then by rows, I can begin to become more dynamic and personalized based on the signals I know about that single source of truth about that customer. And so that's exciting. And using a tool with a really good UI means I can scale based on one template across 60 properties in a fraction of the time. The only problem with onboarding new software programs like a CDP CRM is that once my executive team starts paying for these things on a monthly basis, they assume that it all comes into fruition. And I need some runway to be able to scale it as a single person from one property across 60. So fortunately, I have a great UI in the tool that we've chosen to be able to do that. I haven't been able to do it with fractioned tools before. And then the other thing that I have to conquer, now that I have this beautiful tool, is what I call newsletter narcissism. Basically, all of my stakeholders want to see a pretty email go out on a monthly basis, but for one person to produce that kind of thing on a monthly basis for 60 properties is not possible. What I'm excited about is building automations. So when the customer moves or shows a behavior, I want to respond to that behavior. The conversion is higher, and newsletters have a lot really perfect delivery and great open rates, but very low conversion. So I need to be able to build an expectation with our stakeholders to say it's not about the newsletter. It's about the automation and where we meet the customer in the moment to drive towards the next step.
And I think what's really forward thinking and exciting with 60 properties is sharing those templates in efficiency with dynamic images.
Yes.
So we should talk about personalization, which we've heard a lot about. And it's always funny to me when to some hotels or just when I'm talking to hotels and conversations, it's really just getting the first name right, something simple like that. And that's a great step. But there's the idea of efficiencies, especially with the advancement of AI, where you're able to adjust the images in a dynamic way. And not only just the images, so maybe your family image is different than your husband and wife celebrating an anniversary based on all of that data that you're talking about, but it's also the offers. Not everybody wants the same offer. And your luxury, high-value guest probably doesn't need a coupon.
Yep.
So do you want to talk a little bit about personalization and what that looks like for Lark and some successful campaigns, maybe even a tangible example?
Well, I'll tell you a dream that I have. We have a beautiful brand within our family of brands called Blind Tigers. They're basically converted mansions with beautiful salons. And a lot of the times I get shy when on vacation. I don't want to hang out with other people. I just want to have my own space. But I can't tell you how much fun it is. And I think a lot of people are looking for that type of socialization where they stay in a beautiful room that's like no other room. They're not cookie cutter, they're not boxes, within a mansion. And then I go out and I hang out in the salon and talk to other people who are hanging out in those series of salons. So those are beautiful. We have 4 of them. Wouldn't it be cool if I could send, instead of sending discounts to go try, if you've tried one, to go try another? Wouldn't it be cool to have a passport program that if you try the next Blind Tiger, you're going to get a little something from me. If you get to 3 Blind Tigers out of the 4, you get a little something. And by the time you get to the 4th, I'm not going to give you a hat. I'm going to give you something even better. And I know what your value is to me by the time you make a 4th trip, right? So I would rather set those milestones than say you need to stay 20 nights with me to get a free night. But you can't magically make that happen in the data. I need to be able to have aggregates in the data that are so smart that I'll be able to pull and build an automation that says they've been to these, not just that have they been to 3 and they need to get to a 4th, but which of the 3 have they been to and which is the 4th one I need to drive towards. And that just doesn't happen. That takes a partnership between me and your dev team to be able to have calculated fields in what we ingest and move it forward. And ultimately, the major dream is let's pull in triple seat data, let's pull in our group sales data, let's pull in toast data, let's pull in POS data, and instead of sending some soulless discount, let's send a free appetizer or an amuse-bouche from the chef. So when next time out there on property, we will have signaled a different way of recognizing loyalty than just something that has a dollar figure, where the perceived value is exactly equal to what they're getting. That makes sense?
Have you discovered all 50 plus of our aggregates yet in the platform?
I think the way we communicate best is that I keep building use cases. Like, I can tell the developers I want this, this, and this, but I'm not using the intelligence of those developers and coders to do what they do best. So when I come up with use cases and then I prioritize those use cases before I throw them over the fence, that's when we can start putting those dreams into reality of how the data fuels increased levels of segmentation.
That's the beauty of the partnership and the agility between us, is we can dream together, and that's really the expectation of our guests.
And in my previous experience, in a white label environment, it's beautiful out of the gates, but then you band-aid it and band-aid it and band-aid it into oblivion, right? And it no longer works for you. You're very proud of what you built, but it no longer functions. Then in these larger all-in-one vendor relationships, they may say that they do CDP, CRM, loyalty, blah, 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 but they did it by acquisition. So they don't necessarily know how to work with each other under the tent to get things done. But what's cool at my size, with my level of, a lot of your hotels can eat my entire portfolio for lunch in one building, right? But what's nice about pulling together an ecosystem of vendors is that, and Ascent360 was kind of one of the first core ones, and then you were able to work with all these other vendors, is that I have your attention and we're working together to not only improve what I do, but improve what you do for the rest of your portfolio. I have their attention to solve problems. I also have Triple Seat's attention to solve problems. I have my booking engine, Olive, to solve problems. And all of us get in the room and talk to each other, because when I was a small fish in the very big Salesforce pond, I would put a ticket in, get on a call with a coder, and then they would say, well, I can't solve your problem. It's not important to us. And we don't understand hospitality. So here's the name of a consultant where I need to pay 4 people in a room for an hour for 5 figures to get a very basic problem done. I don't know if you guys have run into that at all. It's just, it's much easier to innovate and be agile when you have a complete team of specialists moving in the same direction.
How do you keep each property unique while maintaining brand identity across the portfolio?
There are two ways to keep a property. Well, there are multiple ways and planes in which you keep a property unique. Of course, every stakeholder and owner doesn't want to, they want to feel like they're unique child under the sun. So I need to be able to show them benchmarks of what we know about them and their market and the industry, but also know that we are looking at them as who they are in their own sort of developmental hotel journey, right? And who their guest is. Then we also need the guest to view us as a unique non-cookie. They're going to pay a little more not to get the same room done over and over and over again. But the level of hospitality is the consistent part, right? That they know they're going to get great sheets and wonderful people and locally authentic experiences. It's much harder to communicate across the board. And then in the pieces and the materials that we send out, we constantly need to be generating the story of the experiences so somebody can step into that and be excited about it. So I was totally fascinated by World Springs and the wellness. You know, it's one thing to get somebody to return to the same spa, but how well are they doing at the cross-selling of saying, you liked this, trust us to like it somewhere else? And Jen faces that with multiple ski properties. I think executive leadership and owners assume that somebody, because they like one experience, they're going to like every other one, but we're not using data to tell us what the affinities are between our properties. I can tell you, living in a mountain town, and maybe it's same as Whitefish, is that nobody in Steamboat Springs knows about Winter Park unless their kids compete in skiing. But people in Winter Park use their Epic Pass to go stay in Steamboat at least once or twice a year. That's my intuition and market knowledge, but how cool will it be when my data can show me where those affinities are in between my properties? So I won't force one property on to another when there really isn't any demonstrated behaviors between those two.
Would you believe that we already talked for 30 minutes?
It's just so much fun when we get to the data part. And
We're just getting started.
It's not like, maybe I could get just as excited about accounting, but when you get to the data and it's working for you the way it should, that's awesome. But most of us live in a situation where the customer assumes we're omnipotent. If they gave us the data, we should know exactly who they are everywhere all the time. And then we also have executive management who doesn't understand necessarily that just because we might collect it somewhere doesn't mean it's not Swiss cheese within our system.
Well, thank you very much, both of you. I appreciate it.